of changes coming. We can add them in whenever you feel it's appropriate to add them in. And I can tell you the two of the changes which will happen that I know are going to happen, I don't know exactly how much, is the landfill monitoring.
That's right.
There, because of that, the state, you sent the, you approved the letter to be sent to DES that all wine produced from Stantec. It looks like DES went along with that. All wines, Stantec has written us back and said that there's gonna have to be an increase in the fee next year's budget, because they have to do some work now. If the state agrees and they're gonna do the work, they're gonna do some work in November, but it won't be billed until 2018. So
It takes them a while to go through the testing process.
Right, exactly. So,
So do we know how much the work that they're gonna be doing?
well, as of right now, the Stantec, we had put in $9,000.
Right.
Okay, and I think it's going to be in the neighborhood of 12.
And
Oh, where's my paper? Oh, here it is. I'm doing a damn W here. Wait a minute.
part of it is a one-time expense, correct?
Exactly, it's a one-time deal for 2018, and it's got to do with the new, the Stantec monitoring. I believe it was 12,600.
Go right out.
Yeah, I think it was 12,600.
Is that monitoring?
That's where to do that plastics, the PFAS, whatever it is.
And do you have a figure on that? 12,000?
12,000, I believe it's 12,600 total.
So here's a thought, all right? Some of that work they're gonna be doing this year, right?
Right.
So.
Well, he can't get us to bill before next year. So we've already closed the books on this year before that work is gonna be tabulated up. Let's say they take the test in the end of November,
Mhm.
it'll be probably mid-February before we would get a bill. And he can't press any faster because it goes all over the place, and then they gotta compile all of I worked very hard with him to get
Get it on a schedule.
on a calendar year schedule, and he apologized profusely. Yeah, $12,600.
So that closure monitoring needs to go from 9,000 to 12,600,
Correct.
right?
And
Okay.
I don't know if you, and I guess, have you guys signed that letter to go back out that approves?
Yep, it's all
We
set.
did,
Yes.
yes.
All right, so, then, yes, I would say add that in there.
So it's a test, it's not equipment.
Correct,
Okay.
correct. And it's numerous different locations. I think they're gonna test the well there. They're gonna test a couple other
It
places
articulates it in the paperwork.
in the paperwork, yeah.
Okay. It is what it is.
Right.
then
And he
drop-
apologized profusely, and and I sent him an email back, saying, yeah, I can understand this, and I can agree with it, but I just want to confirm that we will reduce the budget back to the normal amount after 2018. And he said, yes. But he said in his original letter that and I read the work for this project will be billed no later than December 21st, 2018, and will be back on a calendar year, so as to be completed within the town's calendar year fiscal cycle. So this will be the only exception, and we'll go back in 2019, should be back to
And
normal.
will we have to do this testing again
No, I think it's, there's a time frame, but, once every 4 or 5 years, something like that.
Okay.
The advantage to him is obviously he speaks DES real well
Lives in town.
and has kept us,
That's the key thing, he speaks DES.
he's kept us in compliance. So,
Cool.
so we're gonna change that line to
12.6,
12.6, which will change.
everything by $3,600.
Right.
So now you're $4,614.
Right.
And we don't have heat and lights yet, but it looks as though.
No, the heat and the lights will be the same.
Yeah, it looks as though they should be the same.
Okay. The
And we're doing the internet connectivity on a
Well,
warrant article?
yes, that was the next thing I was gonna bring up was, did you brief about everything?
Oh, go ahead,
We
give me
had
good news.
We had a meeting with,
Mike Duggan.
Mike Dugan from Spectrum, and we basically had a set price after Karen helped and Lloyd helped and all the work and back and forth over numerous years. We had the work down to $11,261, I believe it was, for connectivity which to everybody appears to be like way too much money. And we kept, working on it. And we had the meeting Tuesday in here. Lloyd and I met with him. We gave all of our rationale and justification and showed him why we needed the connectivity, and it would be a good thing for Spectrum, it would be a good thing for the town, and it'd be a win-win situation all the way around. And after probably 30 minutes of discussion, he presented a proposed contract for us to sign, which waived $5,000 of the fee. So he waived basically $5,000, so it'll cost $6,261. Now, that I went to the CIP committee the next day, the next night, and because in and out it's well below $10,000, it's not a CIP issue, which they were grateful for. And I said we have a couple different options for how we could put it in. We went over the option of adding cable and phone together, and that was also with a monthly rate of $79. Was the contract, which was a sticking point for us because they wanted to put us on a long-term $600 a month or something. And so he was presented the contract with $6,261 and a monthly rate of $79. And I said, well, how about if we go cable and phone? And he said, well, the cable will come down $10, be $69 a month, and we'll add $20 on for the phone. So it would be $89, which is $45 cheaper than what we're getting for Pearpoint right now. So that's a win for us. And the same thing if we added video onto it and went with the full bundle, there would be a reduction in the rate, and it would cost some for the video capability. What that allows us would be, if we did that bundle, it would allow us to do a lot of our training right there. And we could do webinars, we could do, a lot more with that triple bundle.
So that's you're gonna take.
So we could,
Telephone would be involved?
well, I can't take it out of the budget
Right.
until it's actually connected. Now, there's at least a 90-day lead time for them to it's for pole permits. That's part of the cost, is not necessarily just stringing the wire. But they gotta do pole permit process because other people own the poles. It's about a 90-day window. So he is going to write in the contract that if we approve the contract now, that it will not be connected, there will be no bills, no fees until 2018, in January.
January.
So
2nd.
the monthly charges are what?
For the, just the cable itself, $79.
Yeah,
Cable and phone would be basically $89.
yeah.
That's what he said. And he didn't give a number for the cable, phone, and video. He's going to send us, and he's gonna send Karen, 2 contracts, one for the cable and phone, and the other for the cable, phone, and video.
Yep.
So we can pick whichever one at the time, and
So your budget has $1,200 in telephone,
correct.
right? And if my numbers are correct, that would go down to $840 about per
Right.
month for that line item.
What I would, yes, something like that, if it was just a cable.
Right.
If it
Cable
was
and phone.
cable and phone, whatever the numbers. I put out.
840.
I had 915.
Well, $90 a month
Yeah,
times 12 months, $840,
all right.
right?
Whatever that works out, yeah.
Right.
What I would recommend,
No, that's wrong. Yeah.
How much a month?
90,
No,
90 times 12,
yep, no, it's,
918,
yeah,
yeah,
1,000.
so
yeah,
it's $1,000.
right.
So what I was thinking is if you leave your telephone line alone on your budget, and also leave your government buildings maintenance line alone. And we're gonna spend $6,000 or $7,000 on this installation.
Mhm.
I would put
Just
it,
leave that line right where it is.
Yep,
You painted last year, this year you
Wait a
put
minute.
internet in.
okay, that's what I was gonna recommend. I was gonna recommend, put the cost of the connectivity into the building maintenance line.
Right.
Government buildings.
Right.
line.
And then,
Rename it?
no.
No, it's
No.
transfer station building maintenance.
Yeah.
Maintenance, because all you're doing is updating the service.
right,
So,
Right.
and then we can work, whichever contract we choose, we can work
Right.
the change to that budget line
Yep.
for Fairpoint, and call it, and then change the name. to
Which
Spectrum.
line is that?
That's telephone, which is 432430341, about halfway down.
Yes.
We just changed that to Spectrum.
Yeah, or interweb or whatever we
Yeah.
call it. something.
No, I mean, we wouldn't have to do it right away.
You leave it as, you leave it as telephone.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what the description is, but it will include, today that includes your internet and your telephone.
correct,
It would still include your internet and your telephone. It would
correct.
just be, the cost would be a little bit less.
Right.
Yep.
And the one-time expense of 6,000.
Going to,
where
going
is
to the
that?
maintenance.
That would go under,
Government
uh,
buildings.
the last one,
Transfer station maintenance.
419463630.
Yep.
Where are you on this sheet here?
That's the
Right
third page.
We're on this,
On the budget.
government building.
So we're gonna add, what was that, 6,000?
Well, so here's another question with respect to building maintenance. You had a bump last year for the painting. We didn't do anything to the Quonset, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay,
That's the next thing down the road.
okay, so,
What was your most recent quote on the painting?
I think it was 3,000 or 3,200, something like that.
for the Quonset.
Can you get another one? 'Cause
I'm
that's-
trying, I've been trying to get that since you asked.
Okay.
That's why I don't have the specific number, but,
I like your idea of just leaving that transportation maintenance line as it was last year.
Right.
That provides some money to,
So leave it at
to leave it at 10.5, right?
Okay.
That provides the money to do the the cable installation and also provide some money to do this painting. May not be the total amount in
Okay.
there, but we know that painting needs to get done. And while it's great for us overall to say, look, we're bringing the whole budget to 0.2% different from last year, it's also important to do some catch-up on building maintenance. And
Right.
when we get caught up, to make sure that we
Stay caught up.
stay caught up. I mean, you know, we have a responsibility to make sure that the assets that belong to the town are maintained and passed along to people that follow us in a serviceable condition. And in some of these areas where we are behind the power curve because we haven't done stuff, and we need to make sure that we get there.
I know when we first talked about this prior to your folks' arrival, it was mentioned that we get about $12,000 in fees through the cable company, and we wanted to reinvest some of that money originally, so.
And Clay can, in his,
Wisdom.
his, what's that? Anyway,
Tactful.
right, he can create a schedule to see whether or not the video conferencing is an actual money saver. Because we're paying
Right.
for mileage, we're paying for whatever. I
Oh,
mean, you have to
absolutely.
pay for your video conferencing, but,
Right,
and does that reduce your part-time help?
right. And that doesn't need to be, that portion of it doesn't need to be done right away.
No, no,
You know, we can always add that later on.
Yep.
But it may
So-
be, that that's a good idea.
Well,
And that's
it's- yeah,
positive.
exactly.
Any other questions for him? I have a couple.
I want to come back to C&D.
Right?
You budgeted a very slight increase from 2017. For the last 2, maybe 3 years, C&D quantity and cost has been going up.
Right, we significantly spiked it last year. We significantly added more. I think we can stay, you know, again, it's a guess, but I got 3 months left. I think we can stay in that ballpark.
Well, my concern is, when you go over on that cost,
So then I have to come off all the lines.
then you gotta find money that you've budgeted pretty tightly other places
Right.
to eat into. And,
I don't have that many of them
right,
left.
right. I think you do a good job of providing a fair estimate of what all these costs are gonna be. So, we all know if something you have no control over, like MSW disposal or C&D disposal goes up because the tipping fee goes up or because the quantity goes up, we have to pay that bill.
Right.
We can't say, oh, it's discretionary.
Mhm.
And the,
Well, I put them up $4,000.
put what up, 4,000?
The CD, plastic, and MSW. Those
Well,
three lines?
I'm looking at CD, you're up $1,500 from
Correct.
last year, or from this year.
C&D?
C&D's
Oh,
up
okay.
from
Oh, sorry.
75,000 to 76,500,
MSW.
okay?
Yep.
MSW's up $2,000. MSW's been pretty predictable though.
Right.
I
But
mean,
well, I'm
You don't know
figuring,
where the tipping fee's gonna go, but,
well, they, yes, I do. They,
Okay.
and up 2%.
okay,
So what I'm trying to do is add that 2% in.
mhm,
And, you know, the way the percentages are working out right now, if we go, I mean, it should be right about that number,
mhm.
so. But are you wanting to add more?
Just suggesting that if you under budget, then you end up having to squeeze something that you've already put in
Right.
someplace else that you need to do, and put it
Right.
off till the following year, which
Right.
I don't think is good stewardship of the
No.
operation.
Right.
So I'm just asking you to look at that number again and not greatly inflate it, but
Right.
is that enough to cover it? Because we've run into a situation the last couple of
Last
years
year,
where
yeah,
it
right.
hasn't been enough to cover it.
Right.
And it's great to come in with a budget that looks great in the beginning, but when you bust it down the road and then you have to scramble to squeeze things
Right.
in, that's not so good.
The other thing is, I look at another department, so far this year, we're up on building projects and building permits. When I read the business trade papers right there, the economy is inching up a little bit
Right.
better. Next year, it looks like it's gonna, and it's compounding.
Mhm.
You know, I would have no problem, for sake of argument, of adding $2,000 to C&D. It gives you some flexibility. There's something else going on here
Right.
too.
Yeah,
That facility up there doesn't need this stuff hanging around, overflowing. You don't do it,
Right.
but, you know, we need to make sure that you continue to be successful, so.
Yeah, in reality, if we don't use it, if it doesn't go up and it stays about right, if the plastic goes over or the MSW goes over, then that little bit will help offset that.
Well, and you already.
So the way I look at it is I bundle those three together, because that's my waste management contract. And I look at the bottom line for those three added together.
But you-
And another $2,000 would help.
And you sent us some
Some.
paperwork from NRA that, you know, with trade in China,
Right.
you anticipate, they're telling you, things are changing.
Yeah, it's gonna be,
But
But you know, when
let's
I
just look
look
at
at,
it
Yep.
like an actuarial would look at it.
Yep.
You're 2/3 of the way through the year, 3/4 of the way through the year,
Yep.
and you've only spent 54% of the budget.
well, we're a month behind on waste management. Because remember, those bills come a month later.
Okay, but you're still.
So I was looking at
You're still
66%, but I was at 57.
You're
So-
at 54, yeah.
Yep.
So-
54%.
Yeah, by the 10th of this
You
month.
should have, I mean, if you just extrapolate these numbers forward, you only need 18 grand and you got 33. So I appreciate that you're behind the ball, or behind the billing cycle with
Right.
waste management. But I guess I'm not as worried as some that we're gonna run over on that line.
No.
It just doesn't look like the trend is in that direction, unless you're gonna bring in a $20,000 bill this month.
Yeah, I hope not.
Probably not.
Is there another alternative as we get along in the budget cycle? If for some reason we're hit December 31st, we can always re-examine the budget, correct? It's not cast in
we
stone.
can. All right, you're looking at C&D, is that what you,
Yeah,
all right. So
Yeah.
through 8 months, we spent 6 grand a month, right?
1, 2, 3,
Pretty
4,
much,
5,
yeah.
6, 7, 8.
pretty much.
Yep,
So 8 months, we spent 64.4%
right.
of the C&D budget,
So,
which is 1.53% below the target.
yep,
Okay, I don't know where we're coming up 10% different.
Yeah, here's the latest C&D line,
Yeah,
right? This one here,
yeah,
and that's the percentage,
okay. So you've actually spent 48,000,
right?
not
Yep.
33.
Yeah.
And that's as of,
Oh, you're looking at the
Oh, yeah,
year-to-date
the new
expense
one.
of, yeah, that's a problem with using this.
If
One
you're looking
thing
at,
I
this is the latest, this is the one we're working off of, 48,000
right,
as the year-to-date. So it
Okay.
tracks toward the 75.
Yeah,
Right.
that's, okay.
And that puts
the
us-
only reason I'm asking is
Right.
we've had some years where
Exactly.
we've gone over, I mean, you know.
Well, you look at the plastic, we're at 69% on plastic.
Right,
right.
So, the plastic is probably going to go over $500, let's say.
Yeah.
The,
but there's a difference here.
right,
Plastic, $5,500. is your line item. C&D, $76,000. So there's a
Right.
more than
Exponential
tenfold
difference.
magnitude difference there. So if we go over by $300 on plastic, it's not,
Correct.
it doesn't have the same impact as $2,000 on C&D.
Yeah.
So again, you have your finger on the pulse of this thing, and you can take what we spent through 8 months and project it out and say it'll stay within the budget, but does your activity go up a little bit at this time of year, toward the end of the year, or does it
Right.
drop off a little bit? You know, where's the tipping fees gonna go next year, all of that kind of stuff. I'm
you
just
know,
raising the issue, you're presenting a budget, and I don't want you to put too little in that line
Right.
and have to end up saying, well, now I can't do the oil changes on these things until January of the following year
Right,
because I don't
because-
have the money for it.
Correct. Yeah, and if you look, even a bigger nut is MSW, the next line down.
Right,
95,000, and we're almost 70%.
yep,
So if that goes over,
right. So
Then
maybe
you need
90,
that-
maybe 97
And that
is,
stuff legally can only sit in your hopper so
7
many
days.
days.
7 days, yeah. So, you know, maybe $2,000 on the C&D line would be, would help.
What are your thoughts?
I mean, I'm not opposed to putting a little extra money on those two lines, you know. I just wanna, and I think. we need to
the
be
discretion,
careful.
the discretionary part of that is not what you do. The discretionary part is what people do, bringing stuff in.
Right.
You bring more stuff and throw it in the MSW, okay? You throw more bottles and cans and all that into the regular MSW hopper, and our cost goes up. People are a little more attentive, it can keep that line under control. But whatever it is, you gather it, we ship it out, we pay for it. Unlike, you know, do I have a guy for an extra hour here or an hour there?
Right.
So those are things that we have, we can have some influence on, but we have no direct control on.
Correct.
So, all set?
Yeah, I mean, the trending on MSW is pretty constant. So if you added a couple $1,000s, that's about what we went up over last year. The C&D goes exploded.
Yeah, right, yeah.
So, I mean, you're up $20,000 over.
So how about if we would add 1,500 onto that,
1,500 under what?
onto
Yeah.
the CD?
CD?
So
Make it
that-
78,000?
Make it 78,000.
All right. You want to do anything on MSW?
80, 86, 88, 90, 93, and we're currently at 95.
That basically is the
97,
key,
So that's the trend you're working.
key operation up there.
97 is a good number, I think, because that's about where it's trending is
Mhm.
going.
Yes.
97, right?
Right,
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll leave that one alone.
yeah.
So we add 1,500 to the CD line.
Yep.
And we add 3,600 to the closure monitor line.
Right.
Right.
And everything else stays the same.
Can I ask a couple of questions?
Okay. And then what I'll do is, this page is good. I'll reproduce for the budget committee, I'll reproduce this page and this front page so that we have the current. So the arrows, you know, you won't. That's a problem with using one of these old things, then the year-to-date stuff isn't correct. It gives a bad interpretation.
Well, that's
Sorry
part of
about
the
that.
problem. You're not gonna know the year-to-date until December 31st.
Exactly. So, but before it goes to the budget committee, I'll have it.
I have a couple of issues.
Okay.
That's Wednesday, or Tuesday, Wednesday.
First of all, we're in the process of inquiring about mowing the side banks haven't been mowed for a
Okay.
number of years and whatnot, but that's not in your budget, is it?
No,
Okay, but we're working on that along with some other projects in town. There's about
Right.
6 of them now.
right.
Number 2 is, I've had a conversation with you. You're very kind, but what happens is we have projects in town, for example, citizens pull out the docks and the floating debris down.
Right.
You know, it's only a truckload, but guess where it goes?
Construction.
We had 5 people brush out the benches beyond the church there. Where does the brush go?
Yeah.
You know, we find a refrigerator on the side of the road. Where does it go? Guess what?
Well, the state guys bring us stuff that they get off the sides of the road, and we have Jim guys bring us stuff, and then when we do projects, like we
Shingles
redid
on the roof.
the shingles on the roof, you know, I got a whole truckload. When we redid the Melvin Wharf, the lumber from that we got, and that, well, over time that adds up. You know, maybe that's 2 or 2 C&D containers, maybe it's 3 for the year. The swap shop does the same thing. You know, that stuff comes, and over a period of time, you know,
But that's dollars that's not in your budget.
it's dollars that we're not collecting revenue for.
And I don't know what my board members think about it, but
Right.
We haven't run over
What-
budget.
What's your suggestion?
that we put,
Maybe a line in for town disposal.
you know, at least $500 to $1,000. That stuff adds up.
It's not a profit center.
Now,
Right.
here's the issue, okay? Any money that he collects goes into the general fund. It doesn't go into offsetting any of this stuff.
Right.
So if we put money someplace else in the budget,
The only thing that affects it would be a cost for me. It would be that you guys or the budget committee looking at me like I've had a cost overrun.
Right. And
That's the
Well,
only effect.
but you anecdotally
Right.
can come back and talk about some of these things.
Right.
How exactly do we want to measure this stuff? I mean, we can get very, very precise and detailed in additional charts of accounts and additional measurement,
Mhm.
but it takes time and effort on your part and everybody's part to stay
It's a
on top
guess.
of it.
That's a
And
guess.
right, right. And some of the things we're talking about doing, like putting scales in for C&D and that sort of thing, is gonna take a lot of the
A lot of it.
approximation out of it.
Right.
But for town projects and for stuff that gets dumped alongside the road,
Right.
that gets brought to the transfer station, the alternative is it stays in the ditch alongside the road. That's not good.
Right.
So it's just part of what as a town we do. And
Well, another example, and I can live with where we are right now. It would be different, like when we did the Old Woods project, the Old Woods Road cleanup, that there was a separate budget line that went to. And that helps tremendously. If I had that added in, that would be another